Okay, welcome back to another episode of Scotty and Motty. This is what part of the show or the channel where we discuss our favourite years. As always, we invite a guest onto the channel. We've got Liam Bradford, who is the United reporter at BBC Radio Manchester. Got a good gig there, man. Imagine being the Man City reporter and not, or if you're a United fan and support and having to report on Man City, that could have been a bit of a shit job.
Yeah, it would have been a bit tricky, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's not bad. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, but you put the groundwork in to get to where you are, and I've had some difficult ones, but really pleased to be able to watch United for a living. It's great.
Me and Liam just chatting. We bumped into each other years ago as when I was reporting, and I've seen Liam at Salford when there's one man and his dog watching him and things like that. It's not just you go from graduating straight into covering United, so you've done the graft, mate, and fair play to you.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable along the way.
Is it like when you're a footballer and you sort of do your YTS and you go over to you've got to do a loan move to Preston for a bit and then to build up?
Yeah, I mean, it's like going to Anderlecht, isn't it? Or what was Royal Antwerp for the United kids. I was doing a commentary with Luke Chadwick down at Norwich. He came and did that, and he spent a bit of time at Antwerp on loan. And I just thought, you've got to put the yards in, haven't you? And there's some yards disappearing off to Belgium for a while.
You were talking about Wigan before I joined in, and the only bit of sports broadcasting or journalism I've done was interviewing Uwe Rosler when he was Wigan manager, and I was working at Wish FM at the time, and whoever was doing the sports had pulled a sickie that day, so I was told to go to the DW. Is it DW in it, Wigan's ground? And then we do the press conference with Uwe Rosler before the FA Cup game against Arsenal in the semi-final. I think they were playing. I think that was Uwe Rosler. And then I was told to sit down, and then everyone was having a chat in the banter before he came out. And then I went in. There was biscuits sat on the front that were Juve's biscuits. I'm completely none the wiser. Gone straight in for there for the journalists. Picked up the biscuit, and then here comes Uwe Rosler. And then there was only like one Jammy Dodger. I think it was a Jammy Dodger, and they were his favourites. And I'm there. What can you do?
Mate.
Yeah, we were off to a winner straight away.
Uwe Rosler was a great character. A couple of little quick stories about him. One, he used to have a cup of tea every time he did any kind of press conference. So you talk about the biscuits, but he always had a brew as well. And halfway through the press conference, you just hear as he had a sip of his tea on the radio. Honestly, I'm not even kidding. And the second one is he lives around the corner from me. He's got about as much hair as Jay. All right. But every time I was going into the barbers, he'd be sat there and he'd go and sit in the chair. He'd spend 10 minutes in the chair. He'd disappear off. When I asked what was going on, they went, "Oh, he's here every Friday without fail. And basically all we do is wipe the top of his head, trim his beard, and send him out the door again every Friday." Make it up, could you?
I was about to say, because I took my lad to the barbers the other week, before lockdown, and I was sat waiting, and my lad was having his haircut, and someone walked in and went, and this is why I didn't have a beard or anything, I was just completely bald. And he went, "Are you next, mate?" I was like, "No." Yeah, I'm having the eyebrows done.
You should have said yes.
I know. Yeah, you can wait your turn, mate.
Oh, dear. So we're going to talk favourite years. Obviously, this one has been like the weirdest out of all our lifetimes, especially today with the news that Kanye West is also running for president with the birthday party. I don't know where to begin with that. That's a whole podcast in itself. But we're going back and looking back at a great year, which was 1997, and this has been nominated by Liam. So, Liam, what was should we start off with best sporting event of 97?
Oh, United won the league that year, didn't they? 1997. So I suppose that's the one to pick out. Wasn't so great other than that. Got knocked out of the FA Cup by Wimbledon in a replay. Like, beat them 5 days beforehand, and then, got knocked out of the FA Cup. I think that was, fifth round, sixth round, something like that. And then, of course, got dumped out of the Champions League by Dortmund in consecutive games, who were German champions at the time. And you're looking at that as a United fan and thinking that was our opportunity to go on and do that. The same, I sort of felt the same when they got dumped out by Leverkusen. Same kind of feeling. I thought that might have been the opportunity, but obviously it turned out that was coming a couple of years later. But yeah, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, top scorer in 1997 for Manchester United.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, Jay, what do you remember in 97 and Man United?
It was Eric's last season, wasn't it? 97. That's my sort of overriding memory. I remember it sort of keeps getting brought up because is that the season we won the league with like 12 points or something? It's like
yeah, 7. We were 7 points above Newcastle, weren't we?
Yeah.
By the time it finished, but we won it with a game to go, and it was all a bit.
It was.
Slow.
I remember it was very like low point salary. People always bring it up now because obviously City and Liverpool had these 100 points, 98 points, 97 or whatever. And I think I can't remember, was it 76 or something really low? I can't remember the exact point tally. Yeah, but it was really low. But I just remember, I like you say, I remember that Wimbledon game. You've hit the nail on the head with Europe. So frustrating. It was frustrating the Dortmund game. Leverkusen. I think it was Monaco as well the year after. There was just a sort of, you remember that when I remember Teddy Sheringham missing about 5 sitters against them. There was just a period at that time where you just thought, like you said, oh, this isn't going to happen for us. Like, you get all deflated, don't you? Like, oh, we've got loads of time or whatever. You think, oh, we're never going to do it in Europe. But yeah, it was a little bit frustrating. But just my overriding memory is that is winning the league, which was, it was retaining the title, wasn't it, after the 96, the class of 92, 96 season. And just Eric's final season as well. And sort of after the season when the news came and we realised that was it, just being heartbroken because he'd been the main man. When we hadn't won it in 95, that had been because he'd been suspended. So even though 96 wasn't a vintage season for him, he still played a big part in us winning the league.
You don't think about it, but that was a season of massive change as well, 97. So Steve Bruce had gone in the pre-season. Lee Sharp had gone to Leeds in the pre-season. Paul Parker had gone on a free transfer. It just started to feel like there was this massive sort of sea change going on under Sir Alex Ferguson at United, that he was sort of building the next team that was going to go and kick on, and we just didn't have any clue at that point just how good that next team was going to be, did
we? Was that year? Was the summer of the 97-98 season? Would that have been when Beckham came in and was that the Alan Hansen year, or was that the year before when it was?
No,
that was 96.
95, 96 was the class of what you call the class of 92 season. For one of the better.
Yeah, but I mean, they were sort of coming into their own, weren't they? I mean, this was probably the first out of the what we're saying three teams that Ferguson built under United. So you're right. We didn't know where we were going to go with such large characters leaving Old Trafford. But you're talking about the Europe adventure that year. I got shot in the arse in Porto. I went to for United versus Porto in I think it was the last 16. My dad's taken me away for my 16th birthday on my first ever Euro away with him and his mates, and we were on the Algarve for like 4 nights and then drove up to Porto. It's all gone kicking off to shit. Everyone's levered. I'm looking around for support, and then the police are just letting off fucking these grenades. And next minute, I got like massive pain in my ass. I'm on the floor. I've got shot in the buttock, and then my dad's on the phone to my mum saying, "He's all right. It's not a flesh wound. It's just a bruising." Like, I don't care. Get him home now. I was in school, my last year of school, 97, showing off my ass wound.
You should. That's what you should have called the podcast. I got shot in the arse in 97. That's
the
shot in the arse in Porto. Yeah.
I love the fact he rang your mum as well. Don't worry, he's been shot, but don't worry.
Yeah,
Anybody that's done Euro aways with United though has got a tale similar to that. Do you? That United went to play Lille, but they played the game in Lon. Do you remember? It was probably 2007, and we were all in the away end. We'd done pretty well to get there and stuff, but there was a massive fence across the front of the away fans. And you know what United fans are like standing up at grounds. Somebody fell over at the back, and there was just this sort of surge forward, and there was nowhere to go because of this metal fence. And the gendarmes thought that the United fans were kicking off. So instead of opening the gate and relieving the pressure, they just started firing CS gas into the crowd, just shits and gigs. And you're like, this is chaos. It's absolutely mental. Euro aways, they're madness.
No, I'm with you on that one. I've not done a Euro away for Stockholm. Was the last one.
Mine too.
Yeah, I've sort of stopped doing aways, to be honest with you. But yeah, it was always madness, and the amount of times you go away and like people don't even watch the game, they don't even make the game, don't see it.
Well, that's the other story. That was the long line of my dad's been to about 14 Euro aways, and he's never actually been in the ground. He drove all the way to the new camp, and then just watched it in a pub outside. and my mum was like, "You're not going another Euro away. You never even get in the bloody game." Honestly, he's been all around Europe, but he's never been in the foreign ground.
Fair point. I mean, I remember when I think it was Athens, and we were waiting to go in the ground, or waiting in Athens Centre for Olympiacos. And my mate, this lad turned up with a free ticket. He's like, "I've got a spare ticket." One of my mates didn't have a ticket. But yeah, I ain't got a ticket. And he went, "Nah, I'm all right. I'm good. Stay here. Watch it in the bar." It's free ticket. We'll take it. Come with us. Nah, it's right. I'm staying here drinking and that. I'll be all right, man. So I was like, right, fair enough. But yeah, it's all about the journey, innit? Not the destination.
Yeah, so many great stories of we did Kiev, and to get this was Kiev. We'd beaten Watford in the FA Cup semi-final at Villa Park, and then we were going to Kiev in the Champions League for the following midweek. So the game had been on like a Sunday, and then we straight to the airport, slept in the airport, flew to Warsaw. From Warsaw, flew to Warsaw via Schiphol. So it was Schiphol to Warsaw, then overnight train from Poland to Kiev. And on this 19-hour train journey, we booked a sleeper cabin. So there was me, my mate Dave, and this top bunk that we had no idea who was going to be in it. Anyway, just as this train's about to depart, this Russian Orthodox priest walks into the cabin. And you know, when you start thinking to yourself, this is going to be one of those stories that I'm going to end up telling on a podcast in 2020. That's exactly what went through my head. And anyway, he starts to disrobe to get ready for bed. All right. So dog collar comes off, he starts unbuttoning his shirt. I've got the hot chocolate playing in the back of my head going, we're in real trouble now. Off comes the shirt, like he's hairier than Ryan Giggs. I was like, oh, what's going on here? Next thing, belt comes off, and I'm thinking, hang on, we're in major trouble here. Anyway, it keeps going until this priest is stark bollock naked, all right? And he's on the top bunk, and the ladder up to the top bunk is on the pillow end of the other bunks. So me and my mate Dave, who by the way is absolutely hammered at this stage off a bottle of vodka that we bought in a cheap shop in Warsaw, have to watch as this 60-year-old Russian Orthodox priest, stark bollock naked, climbs the ladder with his tackle flashing past both of our faces until he gets into the top bunk. Honestly, the most surreal thing that's ever happened to Europe.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know.
Bad memories.
Good times.
Really good. On the way back, I met Thomas Kujak's agent. That was random as well. Yeah, I was having a cigarette in between the carriages. Oh, that was another story. Like this trip, honestly, was the best trip I ever did. It was the best trip I ever did. I decided middle of the night that I wanted to get up while I was still smoking to go for a cigarette. So opened the door, left the Russian Orthodox priest and my very drunk mate in their bunks, and walked to the door between the carriages where you were sort of smoking. Pushed the door open, looked down, and there was a 20-foot drop to the ground. And you know when you're like, oh, I must be leathered because I don't remember the train being this tall. Anyway, it turns out that going between Poland and Ukraine, the gauge of the track is narrower, so they have to winch the train carriage up and then put new wheels on and then put them back on the new wheels so you can carry on again. I honestly nearly died that.
Take your life in your own hands there.
Stuff that only happens on European aways, I'm telling you.
It's madness.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Well, even by European away standards, that's some good stuff.
That was the first thing that went through my mind was the hot chocolate song when you started talking about it.
What is it? Like, it doesn't matter, does it? Whenever anybody is ever taking the items of clothing off, that plays in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Like somebody's got an auto start button in the back of your head. Funny. Anyway, 1997.
Yeah, 97. Who was your favourite player in 97? Then who obviously can't now leave. And did you have any other favourites coming through? I think we're all of a similar age around them.
Eric for me was absolutely the one. David Beckham won PFA Young Player of the Year that year. He was definitely a bright light. Yeah, I think for me it was Eric at that stage. He was the king, still is the king in my head. I think it's a generational thing, isn't it? If you were born a little bit earlier than us, then it was always Dennis Law. But for our era, Eric was the king, wasn't
he? Yeah, definitely.
100%.
Jay?
Yeah, no, I love that sort of you see that picture now and again of Eric and Beckham, and it, from that season, and it was Beckham is somewhat. I think Beckham's a little bit underrated sometimes. I think people forget how good he was for United. People get caught up in the sort of celebrity of David Beckham and what came with that, but he was just outstanding. And as you said, if you're a certain age, I just remember when Eric left, just being really scared, just like,
what we're gonna do
how
now?
we're going to cope, what we're going to do. And Fergie moved pretty quickly to get Teddy Sheringham, who was a sort of as good a replacement as you could probably get for Eric Cantona, although probably not quite at that level, but not far off it. But yeah, it was just like you say, Eric was such the king. He still is now. He's just revered now by our generation, and rightly so, because he was just a sort of force of nature, not just his football, everything that went with him. But yeah, it's weird that season because it's almost one that isn't spoken about a lot, because the 96 season was obviously, he came back from suspension and you never win anything with kids. 99, we won the treble, obviously. So 97 is almost in between, where people often overlook it, but it was an important season. And obviously, it's one of the titles that went towards number 20 titles.
Unbelievable. I was just
it was great.
I was just saying, I read, I was listening to a podcast this week and heard that David Beckham had scored something like 65 free kicks in his career, which is more than almost any player in the modern era other than Pele. He got 70, I think. Juninho got 77. But just to put it into perspective, Lionel Messi only has 38 goals from free kicks.
That's
just tells you how good David Beckham actually was.
I'll be nicking that for a tweet later. Don't worry about that. Don't you worry about that stat. I'll be getting it. Rebranded. But no, I saw, because it's like when people compare the Premier League free kick takers, I think he's a good bit away from everyone else.
Yeah.
And it's just phenomenal dead ball, phenomenal crosser. But always for me, like with Beckham, that I think gets overlooked slightly, is his work rate, his effort. He was constantly up and down that wing. He wasn't the type of winger that go past players, but he was a grafter. And he always gave his all, and he loved United as well. I know he left in the end, but he did. He was a sort of boy United fan, and you could tell he always, and we spoke about this before. Sometimes Beckham was a little hard done by because, like in the semi-final against Arsenal, he scored the first goal. Everyone only remembers Ryan Giggs' goal. Yet his goal was a sort of 20-yard screamer, wasn't it? Beckham's. Against Spurs in 99 when we had to win the league, he scored the equaliser, which was a great goal, but everyone always...
It's a great goal, yeah.
Yeah, so it's weird with Beckham. He's a sort of superstar that's somehow underrated, but yeah, he's just fantastic that season as well.
He really was.
Yeah, I always remember in 97 for United, well, the 96, 97 season, was because we were following Euro 96, and it was my sort of first... When we were buying players from abroad, and this was back at a time when we didn't have the internet, so when you were hearing these foreign names linked with your club, and you thought, these are going to be so sexy, and you'd heard rumours, sexy football, and then Karol Poborski and Jordi Cruyff turn up. And
I knew you were going to say Karol Poborski.
Karol Poborski, he flattered to deceive him, didn't he? Like everybody, like there were flashes of absolute brilliance and then long periods of dross. Like there was just nothing. And
it was that one goal, wasn't it, in Euro 90? It's the chip, the lob.
Great finish.
And everyone was like, and like you say, before the days of like universal internet, you didn't have a lot to go off, so it was like, oh, you see what he did for Czech Republic, you see what that goal he scored. And Yeah, like you said, Liam, it was just he flat City save. There was side moments there, but because people were like, oh, you know, he's going to be coming, he's going to be our main player and all this sort of stuff. And I think was he there for a season or was it 2? And then
two seasons, I think. And then he went to. Then he went to be honest, he went on and played for Benfica and Lazio following United. But I always remember because I think Liverpool signed Patrick Berger, didn't they, the same summer? And I remember the headline saying United have got the wrong check because Patrick Berger had a sweet shot. I mean, he was probably the better buy, wasn't he, out of the two, I'd say.
He had a better second season, didn't he, Poborski, than he did his first. His first season, he looked a bit lost. Second season, he did a bit better. But yeah, I don't think he was anywhere near what. Do you know what? Ronnie Johnson had a good season that season. Jordi Cruyff, came in and actually did a job for United. Both of those get overlooked, I think. Poborski is sort of the one signing that everybody looks at and goes, geez, what was Fergie doing? He's right up there with like David Bellion and what was the Bebe?
The Djemba, yeah, Bebe or the Djemba twins.
Djemba, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I know what you mean. Jordi Cruyff was always one I might be misremember, but he always seems to be good in like when it was warm in the summer or whatever. In August, he was all right, Jordi Cruyff. And then when it got to winter, he literally, it was like he just didn't want to play. He'd be like, he was like, pre-season or like the first August and September, he looked great, and then he just disappeared. So like maybe start playing again in May when it got a bit warmer. He just didn't seem.
I wouldn't mind if you come from hot climate.
I know it's like it's in Holland.
Don't get this in Amsterdam. What's this brain?
Well, no, he didn't like them. I don't know. He didn't seem to step up when it was a bit cold.
And 97 was a great year for films. It was actually the year that the Orthodox Russian priest, Full Monty, came out in 97. Yeah, bizarrely. And also the Titanic came out that year. I remember going to the Titanic, watched it 3 times with 3 different girls, and didn't work with any of them. So I had to sit through 9 hours of Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet to no kisses at the end. So that was a lesson learned. What was your favourite film in 97, Liam?
Oh, I wrote all of the ones down that I thought I might pick, and now I can't choose one. Austin Powers came out in that year. That was a great, funny film. So we'll go with that with a funny film. Con Air came out in that year. That was great for just a straight up action movie. Event Horizon came out in that year. Now, Event Horizon was the first scary film that I properly loved. I really, really loved that. Face Off with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage is probably up there. But the one that I'm going to pick is Good Will Hunting, which came out in 1997, which for me was ace. I love Robin Williams in that movie. He was absolutely fantastic. And I still think it's a very sad loss that he's not with us anymore.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic film, Good Will Hunting. Was it actually written by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, or did they produce it? I know they had a lot.
No, they wrote it. They won an Oscar for it. Yeah, they won best screenplay. But no, I'm with you, Lee. I mean, it's great. I think he won an Oscar as well, Robin Williams, for his performance, best supporting actor. I think he won. But yeah, the scenes him and Matt Damon, he's fantastic in that film, and it's funny. It's a great film, because it's got really funny bits in, the sad bits. There's all sorts, and you sort of really buy into it as well. And like you mentioned there, there's great Robin Williams. He is a loss, but when most time when you think of Robin Williams, you think of like Mrs. Doubtfire, you think of a comedy. For the older generation, you go back to sort of Good Morning Vietnam or even Mork and Mindy, but he really showed what he could do in that film. That he wasn't just a comedy actor; he was a great dramatic actor. And that film is it's superb. It's one of those films where if it was on tonight, you could watch it again. You could just watch it and just enjoy it. It's just really, it's quality film. I
loved it. It was
fantastic film. Yeah, Donnie Brasco also came out 97, didn't it? As well, like one of my favourite films. For me, that's one of my favourite Al Pacino performances. I really love him in that. He's just completely like he's not. He's usually in a position of power in a lot of his films when he's playing in the mafia, and that way he's playing second fiddle and stuff. I really loved the performance in that. And Johnny Depp was slick as ever, wearing that leather coat. I really enjoyed that film. But Austin Powers was great. Austin Powers was I hate when they do sequels of films, because they should have just left Austin Powers alone. Do you know what I mean? But they knew it'd become a franchise. I don't really think the other two, or I don't know how many went on afterwards, really matched comedy of the first one. But Mike Myers was big in the 90s, man. I loved a lot of his films. That's So I Married an Axe Murderer. Obviously Wayne's World as well was another great one in the 90s.
Great film, yeah. Just some of the moments in Austin Powers that just make you laugh even as an adult. Like, you know, the scene that I mean is where he gets the cart stuck in the corridor.
Yeah,
going forward and
That's what I mean, that, innit?
And like, there's just, when you watch it back, my favorite part of that is that when he looks over his shoulder and then drives the cart forwards, and every time it makes me laugh. Now I am 35 years old. That shit should not be funny. It shouldn't be funny, and yet every time I laugh.
You're right. Do you know what? It is that sort of humor. I laugh when he wakes up from he's being frozen and he has that piss that lasts for like 10 minutes, and it's just every time you think he stops, it carries on. But I'm like a middle-aged man who just creases up at that. If I still see it now, it's just like it's just a funny film. Do you know what I mean? There's no sort of pretense of anything, and it works, you know. And like you say, that scene with the cat where he's stuck, we always see that, don't we, when someone's trying to sum up a manager or whatever, and on social media they always use that, oh, this is Arsenal season or whatever, or you see that pop up again on a lot of memes. But no, what a funny film, and one of the few films that Liz Hurley did that was any good.
Yeah, no, you know,
you didn't like Bewitched?
Yeah.
You know, I was desperately trying to think of another film that Liz Hurley had done at that stage, and I came up with
That's what I mean.
The fact that you found Bewitched out of somewhere, mate, fair play to you.
Good luck with that.
There's a cupboard up here somewhere of all Liz Hurley.
I can't even think of any. They're just not very good. One film as well that came out that year that I really liked was LA Confidential. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, great film.
Yeah,
great film.
I always felt like I used to be a bit of an Oscars geek, and I always felt that it was robbed at the Oscars by Titanic. I think it was a better. I just thought LA Confidential was a better film.
Tarantino had one out that year as well, didn't he? In Jackie Brown.
Of course.
Now, for me, that is the seminal Samuel L. Jackson role. Like, I know that he was brilliant in Pulp Fiction, but him as the arms dealer in Jackie Brown, he was absolutely perfect when he's talking about the AK-47 and when you absolutely, positively have got to kill every last motherfucker in the room, except no substitute. It's still, for me, brilliant. And Pam Grier's so good in that film. So,
It's you're right. Me and Scotty always talk about films on this podcast, and we're both fans as well of like older actors who get given a role that does them justice. And in that film, you've got, I think, Robert Forster is in it, Pam Grier, and Samuel L. And, you know, and they're all brilliant in it. And it's great to see, and they'll just love it. And, you know, you can tell they're having loads of fun. And it's a really good film. Again, it's sometimes forgot about in Tarantino films, but it's one of his better ones.
No, fantastic soundtrack in that. Samuel L. Jackson as Ordell was brilliant. I thought Michael Keaton was good in that as well, as this sort of the cop was at the FBI, and he sort of fell, didn't he, for Jackie during the film. I thought Michael Keaton was really good in that film, and also was it Bridget Fonda?
Yeah, Bridget Fonda was there too. Yeah.
Have you ever seen Out of Sight?
George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
The Michael Keaton characters might be the same character in those two films.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's Elmore. Is it Elmore Leonard? I think
Elmore Leonard. Yeah.
And Ray Nicoletti is, and he goes from DEA or whatever to FBI, and I think it's the same, might be the same character. So
I'm not too sure what happened between George Clooney and Michael Keaton, but that was a rough one. That was a rough ride.
No.
Ouch.
Yeah, no, you know the Ray Nicolette character that Michael Keaton plays.
Yeah,
it's the same.
I got that. I'm just saying what happened between the time. I guess they're not happening at the same moment. The films, are they?
No. What do you mean? Sorry, you lost me.
Just a really tough paper round.
Yes, a tough. That's what I mean. I said I don't know what event happened between George. Fuck it, it's going down the right rabbit hole. Right. Next.
I was following you. It's just Jay that wasn't.
I know.
What's wrong with George Clooney in this scenario?
No,
nothing's wrong with George Clooney. George Clooney He's
the
playing
nice
the same
one.
character. It's a nice one. And what I'm saying is between Out of Sight timeline to Jackie Brown, and it's the same character, but they're played by two different people. So what's made George Clooney
played by played by the same person. Michael Keaton plays the same character in both films.
Does he?
Oh, right.
Right, this is why I was getting confused.
No, he doesn't.
Ray Nicolette in Jackie Brown is he not Ray Nicolette in Out of Sight?
I thought George. Oh, right. I don't know.
The FBI agent.
I can't. I'm going to have to look on IMDb now.
Ray
because
Nicolette, Michael Keaton. Right. Yeah, he's the same character, but briefly reprising his role as Ray Nicolette from Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown.
Right.
It's the same. He's in the FBI. He's in the DA, whatever, and he moves to the FBI. It's the same character, Ray Nicolette.
I thought George Clooney was playing. I thought George Clooney was playing the same character.
That's why I didn't get what you meant. Like when you said he's had a rough year with George Clooney, I thought, what do you mean?
the real concern here is that I was on the same page.
I know you two,
Scotty.
mate.
That's a concern, isn't it?
I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus, Liam. I can't believe
I was with you. I was with you, mate. I was sold.
Losing it again.
I would have fallen over the cliff there, buddy. I was with you.
Tell you, Jay, when you work with the BBC Radio Manchester, mate, you know what side your bread's buttered.
Oh yeah. Hey. We got there, guys. We got through that.
We got there.
We did it.
We made it.
I don't know how.
Right, before we move on to films, as briefly discussed, Titanic was the big film that year that won all the Oscars. How did you enjoy it when you watched it, Liam? Is it something you'd go back to, or was it just overblown Hollywood?
I mean, I have a problem with things where I know what the ending is. So you
weren't surprised at this?
No. So sort of knowing how that was going to finish. I also so here's the thing. I think it probably deserved the Oscar that year because of what James Cameron managed to achieve with that movie. James Cameron is one of my favorite directors. You only need to look at what he did further down the line with stuff like Avatar, just to see how visionary he actually is. But there are a couple of things in here that really, really annoy me. And the last one, that the first one that I want to tell you about is the very last scene in the movie, all right, where she's on the piece of driftwood, old Rose, and Jack's drowning in the water. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair enough. But then all of the conspiracy theories that went, there was room for both of them on there. Now, there wasn't, all right? Because the laws of physics suggest that the buoyancy of the piece of bloody wood wouldn't have kept them both on it. Like that's what annoys me, is that just the whole thing is, I can't do it. No, not for me. I'd never watch it again.
I've never known anyone to bring physics into an argument about
But it's got to be right. Like, I don't mind if it's like, if the film has been out there from the beginning, I'm all right with that. I've got no problem at all. Like, set your expectations at a certain level. That's fine. Like, I know that this film is going to go through and it's going to be a complete load of shite when it comes to like dealing with physics properly. You know, like almost every film in outer space, for example, is a load of crap because you can't hear spaceships in space because it's a vacuum and sound doesn't travel in a vacuum. So Star Trek, that can take a running jump as well, because every time the Starship Enterprise goes into warp speed, we all hear it. And everybody's like, yay, Starship Enterprise has gone into warp. No, you wouldn't hear it. Like the vacuum. Nobody can hear you scream in space, remember? So when we come all the way back to Titanic, what you've got is something that doesn't follow the precedent that it set at the beginning. Right, we've got a ship, water comes on board, water sinks the ship. Physically, that's all perfect. So why go off the kilter at the... no, not for me, Clive.
So You've just ruined Star Wars for millions of people there. You're going to
Mate,
get...
Well, hold on. Star Wars is a slightly different thing again. Now, interestingly, they re-released the trilogy of Star Wars. They remastered it in 1997 as well. And it was the first time that I'd ever bought the original Star Wars trilogy box set in that year, to bring it back onto topic. But that is... it doesn't give you any sense of expectation at any point. So it's fine. Like, you're just expecting the unexpected throughout the whole thing. But
right, okay.
When there's an element of trying to make you believe that it's all above board and then throwing something in from left field, that's what I can't deal with.
There we go, James Cameron.
I mean,
so
sorry,
you might have made a film that made $2 billion and done Avatar, one of the most innovative films ever, but you let yourself down with that scene on the driftwood.
Just that last scene, yeah. In fact, it wasn't even him. It was the people complaining about it. Like, I don't even think it was James Cameron.
No.
Just,
Everyone goes on like it's like one of them Lilos at Malia, where it's dead easy to get a load of people on.
Pile on 12 piss.
Yeah.
That's it. They
were good days, then.
Not an inflatable dinghy. It's a piece of driftwood.
Right, let's move on to music. In 1997, Oasis obviously was the biggest selling album that year in August. Their third album, Be Here Now, I remember queuing up to get it and then feeling rather deflated about 3 months later after everybody stopped telling me that it was great, and I got to listen to it myself and think, well, that's what cocaine does to you.
Do you know what I mean? That at that moment is Liam Gallagher at his absolute coolest. At that point, he is cool as fuck. The coolest man on planet Earth. Anything that he did at that moment in the "Do You Know What I Mean" video would have turned
helicopters and a green Parker,
and the green Parker and the haircut and just look mint. But the music after "Do You Know What I Mean" and it's a bit. Not for me. Not the best album.
No, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't that great. And Oasis, everything they'd done had turned to gold. The singles, the B-sides, the first two albums. That it was just like.
But how do you follow Definitely Maybe and What's the Story Morning Glory? No. At some stage, you have got to take a step down, haven't you?
Yeah, no,
because
you're right.
Those two albums were so incredible. And then the B-sides and the master plan and all of that stuff was just so good. Eventually, the dip had to come.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, me and Jay have a theory that Oasis and Adam Sandler are very similar in that they should have called it a day after the first couple of films.
Couple of years.
Yeah, couple of years. And then like for 10, 15 years afterwards, they just carried on putting out dross.
I've got a theory about Oasis that essentially every album they put out after What's the Story Morning Glory, you were only looking for 2 tracks on those albums. The rest of it was all filler. So there's always a couple of belters on an Oasis record, but the stuff that was around it wasn't necessarily as good.
But now it's actually go on.
No, go on, mate. I was just gonna say because it's the same. Definitely Maybe What's the Story or the master plan of that you count out as an album. Just play it all the way through. You don't have to, you might skip one song or whatever, but by and large, you listen to it all the way through. You get to Be Here Now, or you go to Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, or whatever, Heathen Chemistry, and you're right. You're looking for, little by little or whatever. You're looking for something. It's like, oh, this is all right, but yeah, it was a lot of fillers in them albums.
Yeah, every track was just so long as well. I think there's a version on YouTube. I think Noel Gallagher might have done a copy as well, where they reduced the length of the album, and I think they reduced it by about 20 minutes because Noel Gallagher was just that much off his tits on coke that he was just doing like 3-minute guitar solos. If you listen to Is It All Around the World or whatever, and then Be Here Now is actually Marilyn Manson's favorite Oasis album. Because he goes, it's the most drug album that he's ever heard. You can sort of hear how much drugs that they're going through as a band. Because Noel Gallagher's just going on for days on his. I mean, you like Jimi Hendrix, you'll like a guitar solo. But yeah, it's Marilyn Manson's favourite always.
Johnny Depp's on it.
Johnny Depp's on. Can't remember the name of the
slide guitar on one of the songs, don't I? I can't remember which one it was.
Fading Out, I think.
I think it was one of them where there was no one to tell him no. There was no one to say, it's just like, he's just doing whatever he wanted and without anyone to question it. And he just, it just wasn't up to the standards. And I don't think they ever got it back, really. Like you say, the following albums were just the same.
When you look at that track listing, do you know what I mean? Yeah, all right. Stand By Me, yeah, all right. And then All Around the World is fine. The rest of that is really hit and miss. My Big Mouth, Magic Pie, Stand By Me's all right. I Think I Know, The Girl in the Dirty Shirt, Fading Out, It's Getting Better Man. Yeah, all right, okay, I'll give you It's Getting Better Man. But like, it's hard graft, that album, isn't it?
I went to a Nebworth the year before, and they did It's Getting Better Man and My Big Mouth in the set, and it was like a preview, and you were like, those were good songs, but they weren't, classics or anything, but you thought it was a good sort of taste. You thought, this album's going to be amazing, and then it came out, and like you say, it just wasn't what we wanted.
I was think being, I was like Noel Gallagher's peak rhyming couplets, where he was just letting the Dr. Zeus come out in him. I forgot about the lyrics. He's like, come and make my day. Don't gather there for nothing. I can chase everything all away. What do you need a reason to feel happy? Don't shine for the rest of the world. Could you make it snappy? How many songs do you know with the line "make it snappy"? It sounds like a game show host. Come on, love.
I mean, it's in there with the most terrible lyrics of all time. Up with Desiree. Was it Desiree?
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Toast. Like what?
I'd rather,
life.
Yeah. I'd rather. That's the thing that I fear most. I'd rather eat a piece of toast. No.
So many things that rhyme as well, isn't there? That's the thing that I fear most. Like, you could pick almost anything else. Post, host, toast. Like, I know what I'll go with. I'll go with grilled bread. That's what I'll go with.
Yeah, you're like, 2 minutes before deadline, we need a lyric. Quick.
Yeah, quick.
I forgot. I'd rather have a bit of toast. Yeah, sorted.
Yeah.
It's like a journalist when a piece of like an interview comes in 30 seconds before your bulletin. You've got no time to listen to the 5-minute interview. So what you do is take a 15-second clip of the first answer and pray. Like I've got to get Solskjaer into this bulletin. I'm just going to take his first answer.
Yeah, that is it. Get it in quick. Come on. I feel sorry for Desiree as well, because like that song in itself isn't a bad song as such. It's just that lyric is remembered as the worst lyric ever.
Yeah. And like, her career has been remembered because of a piece of grilled bread.
Because she just couldn't be asked. Just that one line.
Yeah.
To just try a bit harder.
I mean, I've got nothing more to add. She can't even go down the like, the Morrissey angle of all just, using sort of daft lyrics or whatever. It's like that was genuinely her best effort at a lyric, and it wasn't good enough. Yeah, again, all right, if it's a nonsense song, not great at any other stage.
Yeah, if you're going to mention, do you reckon then, Liam, if you'd have mentioned other bits of food in the tune, it'd have been acceptable?
Yeah, yes, exactly that. It's like it's like that song by Alanis Morissette that's called "Ironic." Like,
oh god, yeah.
Right. So I will always give Alanis Morissette the benefit of the doubt here, in the fact that she sang a song called "Ironic" when none of the lyrics were ironic, which was what was ironic about the song. Like that is the definition of irony. All right. However, there is a little bit of me at the back of my head that goes, no, Americans aren't that clever.
I think, I'm with you. I'm with you on that, on the second bit. I've always thought that, like, this isn't ironic, where lots of people say that, but I don't know if she was being clever by going.
I will.
Here's a list of things that are ironic on a song that's called Ironic, which actually is ironic.
I would at this juncture say I am only joking, Americans. I love you all dearly.
Yes, there you go. Outrage here. BBC journalist slams whole nation.
Froze.
Yeah. I can see the front page of the Daily Mail already.
Yeah, that's it, mate. They're coming for you now. Cancelled.
Any other music choices for '97, Liam?
Yeah, so my favorite album of all time. The reason that I picked this year is this album. So when you said to me, give us a year, I picked 1997 because of OK Computer from Radiohead, which is the very definition of an album that has been constructed by an artist perfectly. Like it's got a beginning, it's got a middle, it's got an end, it's got anthems, it's got bangers, it's got short songs, it's got long songs, it's got everything that you want out of an album. And as a 13-year-old growing up, this sort of, I don't know, helped me through. I don't know how to describe it, but the first moment that I pressed play on this album and Airbag started playing, I was like, this is it. This is why I love music. Like every part of this album means something to me. So as it sort of went through Paranoid Android, Subterranean Homesick Alien, exit music for a film, Let Down, like it was just perfect. And then when you got down to Karma Police and No Surprises, it was like, Christ, this is mint. This is a proper album from a proper guitar band, and I adore it. It lives in my head and in my heart as my favorite album of all time, bar none.
No,
it's an absolutely brilliant album. Go on, Jay.
No, I was just gonna say it's weird because I have like a, believe it or not, my size. I do go running and I have like a playlist, and Karma Police is on it, and it's like I always listen to that almost like every day almost. And that album is just fans. Like you said, it's just art and artists at work. Fantastic. And Radiohead. There was a time when Radiohead was just golden, weren't it? It was just fucking amazing around this time, and one of the most fascinating bands out there because of the different sort of tracks he brought out and the different albums, and there's always something there in them, and there's just not, you can't sort of pigeonhole Radiohead, can you? It's just so the way they are and everything. It's difficult to say, like, do you know what I mean? At a time when you're talking about things like Oasis and bands like that, and then you've got Radiohead who were just doing their own thing. It was, I love this album, and like you say, it's one of those, just press play and off you go.
Yeah, they transcended the whole Britpop thing, didn't you? Because it could have been easy to sort of fall in with Oasis, Blur, and I know Pulp got dragged into it, but I always see them as a sort of an exception to the Britpop thing. But Computer is just a timeless piece of music. Like I said, Liam, as it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. My favorite tune on it is "Exit Music for a Film." The song that was, I think, it's in Romeo and Juliet soundtrack as well, but absolutely phenomenal. And I think Radiohead are probably, I'm going to say, the best band that came from the 90s for me, especially in Britain.
I think they've got an enduring legacy. If you speak to any Radiohead fan, they'll tell you that this album is, if it's not their favorite, then it's their second favorite album. It's always bang up there with everybody that loves Radiohead. I think OK Computer for me is about, for a guitar band, it's about as perfect as it gets. I mean, I put it up there with American Idiot from Green Day, which came out a little bit later. That was a perfectly constructed album as well for me. And the Black Album from Jay-Z, there's another perfectly constructed album for you as well, just from beginning to end. Slightly different genre, but slightly different, very different genre. For me as a guitar band, this was it. This was the one.
Yeah, I mean, and we should probably talk about Spice Girls album. Your favorite Spice Girl album, Jay, came out in '97. I think Spice World came out, didn't it?
Oh, Spice World? No, that's not my favorite ones. But
which is your favorite one, Jay?
I don't even know what the first one.
Was it the first one was just called Spice? Spice was it?
Yeah, that was the best one. The Spice Girls. To Be Cool. Listen, I'm not into Spice Girls, whatever. To Be Cool 1 is one of the best pop songs ever.
They made fantastic pop music, the Spice Girls. Yeah. Spice World, the movie, came out in 1997 as well.
I love the fact that in that movie they just couldn't be asked, and you could tell they're just taking the fucking piss.
Pay me more money. That's what's going on in that film.
Yeah.
And all the cameos in it as well. Like you've got like Roger Moore, Richard E. Grant, and people are like, "What are you doing in this? Why have you done this? How much have they given you for this shit?"
I know. A couple of honourable mentions, music-wise, from
Yep.
this year, boys, if that's all right.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
The Fat of the Land from The Prodigy came out in this year,
Ooh.
was an absolute banger. Urban Hymns from The Verve, which,
Wow.
you know,
Game
proper
changer.
band. Daft Punk released Homework, which had Defunk and Around the World on it. And Green Day released Nimrod, which is one of my favourite Green Day albums as well. So it was a big old year for music.
Forget
Yeah,
how big a year it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was huge. I think Chemical Brothers had a big album out as well the same year. It was 97 was probably it was peak Britain, wasn't it, really? I think we had Tony Blair as well on Labour. We can talk on like culturally now, because Tony Blair got in after, 18 years of Tory government. It was a bad year. Obviously, Princess Diana died as well the same year in August. But it was a huge year for Britain, wasn't it? I left school that year. Not that that was a huge seismic thing for anybody else in the population. But,
That's how it'll be remembered years from now. 97 was the year David Scott left school.
It was but the thing is, it's kind of the same for everybody. So it was the last year. So my mum remarried in 1998 to my stepdad, who we all moved to Kent for his job. So we moved away from where I grew up in Kidderminster, which is in the Midlands, and we moved down to Kent in 1998. So 97 was my last year with all of my group of friends that I'd come all the way through school with until I was sort of 13 or 14 years old. So it's kind of a seismic year for me as well. I think that there's just so many reasons that 97 was the one for me, and whether they're cultural or personal or whatever, I don't know, but there's something like that for everybody. I think certainly of my generation in 97, that was kind of the year.
Yeah. It definitely felt different into when the Labour government got in, Jay. Go on, sorry, I was interrupting.
No, you both mentioned it, and I was 17 at the time, and I'd never been politically interested, and I remember being gutted I couldn't vote for Blair at the time. I mean, my attitude's changed somewhat now towards him, but you had people like Noel Gallagher saying, go and vote for Tony Blair, and this was unheard of for people like that. And there felt like there was a big shift in the country, and that old The Ream song playing out, things can only get better. And like you say, we'd had the Thatcher government and the poll tax riots and everything that came with that and stuff. And in Manchester, it was a big thing for Labour to be getting back in. And Princess Diana, I remember going out raving one night. May have had a few things and got back and in my mate's kitchen, and the news broke that Princess Diana had been in a crash, and we all were like, "Oh no, Princess Diana!"
Oh God, almighty!
Yeah, it was a bit of a come down from hell. But
national mourning though. Like that was my first real experience of a period of national mourning, and I'm not sure we've seen anything like it since. I'm not sure this nation has reacted the same way to anything else that's happened since 1997. I can't think of a single event where the whole country came together quite like that.
Didn't we get a day off? We got a day off, didn't we, for a funeral?
That's probably why.
Yeah, and I don't think we've had it. Yeah. I remember that. I'm sure everyone got a day off for a funeral because I'd started work. I left school and started working. But yeah, you're right. It was ridiculous levels of just like national mourning. Everyone was just sort of hit by it and touched by it and affected, and young, old, everyone. And it was really weird that time. It was really strange.
I had my dad is he's fairly tough. Like you'd never see him show any kind of emotion really. He was crying that day on Princess Diana's funeral, and I'll never forget it because I was just so not used to seeing my old man like that. Like never really showed me any emotion at all. So yeah, I knew it was a fairly big deal, even at sort of 13 or 14 years old.
Yeah, it's tragic. Because the thing is with Diana, even people who weren't royalists, I had a thing for Love Diana as well, didn't she? So she sort of transcend that sort of royalist movement. I think ITV was the Apollo or something in '97 as well about getting rid of the royal family.
There was a lot of anger when she died because the thing with Diana is you didn't like. I get where you're coming from, but even if you were a royalist, she was like, don't forget, she wasn't Princess Diana anymore, was she? She was Lady Diana, the Princess of Wales. Yeah. She'd had to change her title, because she was no longer officially a princess. And the press had hammered her And then there was like this sort of backlash where everyone was like feeling sorry for her and leave her alone. And then the way she died, it was like painted as the press had killed her almost because they followed her down that tunnel. I know it's not quite the case, but and then everyone sort of turned on the royal family a little bit. But then I think the reason that everyone brought together was because of Harry and William, who are obviously still part of the royal family. They were, they'd lost their mum, and everyone sort of felt, well, we feel bad. You spoke about your dad crying, Liam, and people imagine how they must feel. They've lost their mum. So it made people sort of fall in love with the royal family again a little way, and like, we've got to sort of protect William and Harry sort of attitude. So yeah, it was really weird. It was just a weird feeling that there was like, a mixture of sort of slight anger and obviously sadness and all, but mixed with the sort of the hope of the Blair era and Labour were getting in, and this was going to be a new change, and technology was changing and stuff as well. It just felt like there was a seismic change happening. Yeah, feels like a real turning point in '97 in many ways.
Yeah. It's funny you should mention technology because it's been a key part of my life from growing up as a kid all the way through to now and various bits and pieces. It's been hugely important. And that year was the first year that I think I properly started wanting to know more about technology. And that all stemmed from computer games. So I don't know whether you boys are into computer games in any way, shape or form, but I'm just going to
certainly was in 97. Yeah.
I'm going to read you this list. It was incredible. FIFA 97 came out. What a game that was. Final Fantasy 7, Mario Kart 64, Tekken 3, GoldenEye for the N64. What a game GoldenEye
that was amazing.
And the first Gran Turismo came out in 1997 as well. And if anybody ever wants to know why I still play computer games now at 35 years old, you can blame 1997 for that.
Don't blame. Now you said that, I might take him up again.
My colleague Bill Rice during lockdown. So I went new school, he went old school. So I've been playing the new Call of Duty Warzone pretty much constantly the entire time during lockdown, just to sort of keep me occupied, talk to my mates all across the country. You stick your headset on and you just have a chat whilst you're, playing Call of Duty. He got his old N64 out of the loft and completed GoldenEye again. And I just, you've got to applaud that.
Yeah.
Fair play. Like that's sensational behavior. I mean, he went out of his way to buy the connectors to get it attached to his new telly as well. I was just
legend
starts to the back of tellies anymore.
Mate, that's madness. But GoldenEye was like pile around your mate's house, the split 4 screen thing, get on it. Yeah, that was mint. I've never been a big gamer, but I was into GoldenEye and Mario Kart as well. Mario Kart's another one where I think everyone was into that as well. It was a big year for games.
Was that the year the PlayStation 2 came out then, or was that the year it was around that time? PlayStation 1
yeah. So that year, it was like the Mega Drive and the Genesis and the PS1. That was all that year. Some fantastic games that came out. Like Curse of Monkey Island. Do you ever play the Monkey Island games?
No. Oh mate, yeah. I tried sampling the tune to Monkey Island. I tried sampling that on a track, the piano loop. But yeah, what a game that was!
Superb.
And
still now,
remember Championship Manager? Did you ever play that one?
Yes,
Champ Manager. That's what I used to always play. And we used to have it on our Commodore 64. And because you had a dodgy copy, you'd put the disc in, and for some reason if you press space, then it made it load quicker. So we'd always put like books or whatever on the space bar to try and make it load quicker because there's that amount of information, and it usually take about 90 minutes. But if your mama come in and nudged it, it'd take ages to try and load. But yeah, I spent days on Championship Manager trying to get Yeovil into the Premiership.
Obviously,
as you do. I like to set myself a challenge,
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Oh man.
Funny, stuff you remember. Like Dolly the Sheep was that year as well. Like while we're talking about cultural references.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They cloned Dolly the Sheep that year, which was absolutely astonishing. What a feat that was. And that was the first time that a computer beat a man at chess. So IBM's Big Blue beat Gary Kasparov that year. Just to keep down the technology theme.
Yeah. big year for clothes as well. I always meant Ben Sherman was big in '97. That seemed to be the year of the Ben Sherman shirt and kicker shoes. Everybody seems to everybody down the pub was just wearing tartan like it was a Scottish reunion. You know?
Yeah, he had a Ben Sherman shirt and a pair of kickers.
Yeah. It was. I think it was Ben Sherman shirts and Reebok Classics round our way. That was the thing where everyone.
Reebok Classics.
Yeah, it was definitely Ben Sherman shirts. So you had to have one of them. Otherwise, you just look daft.
I mean, school uniform was pretty much wearing kickers. That was what it was like.
Yeah, and Adidas Predators as well. I think they came out around that time as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
around '97. Yeah.
Boots.
Did your mum try like gluing table tennis racket material to your Umbro to do the same thing and then send you out to play football on Greenbank Park? No, mine did. They're just the same thing, David.
Forget.
They're just the same thing.
Forget all the millions of pounds Adidas has spent developing this technology.
And it gets even worse, mate. She didn't even use decent glue. You know, she didn't go for the Yoo-Hoo, the fucking Pritt stick job. So she sent me out. Like, and of course, I'm naive thinking, oh, my mum might be breaking, we might be onto something here. If these work, I'm definitely making the school football team. So then, so I'm on, and then you take a shot, and then not only does the ball go west, the fucking the table tennis material that's Pritt stick to the front of your left boot goes the opposite way, and I don't think it would have got off on Dragon's Den.
Did she get a job at Adidas on the back of it?
No, she still kept the job in the factory after that.
Yeah. Did it have like the white residue that was left over from trying to stick it on with the Pritt stick? Do you know what I mean? Like when you put Pritt stick on anything, it just leaves like the white all across.
I wouldn't mind that the Umbro that she bought me were pretty decent, and it was just because somebody else did. Like I had a pair of Adidas, and I was mithering for these Predator stuff. So she did what all good mums do.
I think that's a good effort. To be fair, do you know what I mean?
Our mum's great.
She's tried her best. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's nearly finished me off, that voice, honestly.
All right. On that note, we shall call it a day. Liam, thank you so much, man, for coming in and making us relive some painful memories.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
I've had a right laugh. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we've been Scotty and Motty. If you remember the year 1997, please comment below, share. Thanks to everybody who's been commenting and liking so far. Tell your mates. And we'll be back very, very soon to talk about Kanye's run for presidency.